What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, with another edition of Where, Pick, and Dare, where I pick games for the various games that are occurring tomorrow. Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, basically whatever games I want to pick, I will pick them. With all that being said, on with the video. MLB. So first game is game one of a doubleheader between the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. And so for this game, the Blue Jays have a 39.6% chance to win, and the Yankees have a 60.4% chance to win. And this is at New York. And so for our pitchers, Gausman for the Blue Jays has an ERA of 3.16 and a whip of .86. And Fried for the Yankees has an ERA of 1.42 and a whip of 1.01. So, both, that's good pitching for both of them. But the advantage is definitely in the favor of the Yankees. So at pitching advantage and home field advantage, I think the Yankees win game one of this doubleheader. All right, Boston Red Sox versus Cleveland Guardians. So this one does not have any percentages for either team at the time recording this. Like if it was like where's the chances for either of them to win? So, and so this is at Cleveland. And for pitchers, Bello for the Red Sox has an ERA of 1.8 and a WHIP of 1.4. And Allen has an ERA of 2.11 and a WHIP of 1.31. So both are pretty good pitching based on numbers. Both have good numbers for pitching. I mean, Allen's pitched a lot more games. Obviously, he's like a little more than almost like more than four times as many like innings as Bello has. So his numbers are slightly higher, but it's pretty close based on that. Just an ERA whip, pretty close for both of them. So it's gonna be interesting. But Cleveland with the home field advantage, I think they'll give them the edge over the Red Sox to win the game tomorrow. All right, Texas Rangers versus San Francisco Giants. So the Rangers have a 39.3% chance to win, and the Giants have a 60.7% chance to win. This is at San Francisco for pitchers. Uh, Leiter has an ERA of .9, a WHIP of .7, and Hicks for the Giants has an ERA of 6.59 and a WHIP of 1.54. So yeah, it's at San Francisco, and Hicks has played more games than Leiter, so that both those factors could be why San Francisco's given a higher chance to win, despite the ERA issues with Hicks. Yeah. And Leiter, he hasn't played that many games in his career. In his career, he's played in 11 games and he started in 8. So he's not played a lot. But if they have a .9 ERA and a .7 WHIP in that short amount of time, that's pretty freaking good. Like, doesn't matter who you are, that's pretty good for starting out and pitching. And Hicks, 6.59 ERA. That's not good. That is not good. Yeah, so I'm going to go bold and pick the Texas Rangers to beat the San Francisco Giants tomorrow. All right, game two of the doubleheader between the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. So this one, at the time of recording this, does not have any matchup predictor odds for like what are the chances for either team to win, and so can't really go off of that for anything. So this is at New York, and for pitchers, we have Bassett for the Blue Jays, who has an ERA of 1.88 and a WHIP of 1.15. And Schmidt for the Yankees has an ERA of 7.45 and a WHIP of 1.66. Hey, pitching, just with ERA, pitching's in the advantage of the Blue Jays in this game. I mean, 7.45, come on. You're playing for the Yankees. Well, not only that, you're starting for the Yankees. and you have an ERA of 7.45. What the frick? I could tell you Steinbrenner would not put up with that. I mean, that's bad. For I know it's early in the season, but and the guy's only played 9.2 innings this year, but 7.45 for a Yankees pitcher, that's bad. And I'm not a Yankees fan. I pull for the Braves. Sadly, the Braves haven't been relevant enough this year to pick it to consider picking games in any of these videos. But besides the point. But so as far as all this goes, like yeah, the pitching advantage is definitely with the Blue Jays. And despite the significant home field advantage that the Yankees have, I think the pitching advantage gives the Blue Jays the win tomorrow in Game 2 of this doubleheader. All right, Philadelphia Phillies versus Chicago Cubs. So the Phillies have a 34.7% chance to win, and the Cubs have a 65.3% chance to win. So and this is at Chicago, and for our pitchers, Nola for the Phillies has an ERA of 6.43 and a WHIP of 1.61. And Kalen for the Cubs has an ERA of 4.73 and a WHIP of 1.2. So I mean, neither one has an ERA that's like desirable. Now Talen's is definitely better. 4.73 is a lot better than 6.43. I mean, you definitely don't want one that's like above 6. Like you generally don't want one that's above 4. But yeah. But so the pitching advantage and home field advantage are all with the Cubs. So Cubs are beating the Phillies tomorrow. NBA playoffs, round one, with every game tomorrow being game 4. So first game is New York Knicks versus Detroit Pistons. And then, New York leads 2-1 in the series, and they have a 51.2% chance to win. And the Pistons have a 48.8% chance to win. Yeah, so this is an interesting series. This could this is one of those series that could be really good. It could go to 7. Like it could go to 7. And I think there's a good chance it might. Now, as far as this game goes, I think with it being at Detroit and the Knicks, while they have played well this year, they're not necessarily the most consistent in the playoffs. And so I think with the home field advantage, I think the Pistons beat the Knicks tomorrow to even the series. All right, Los Angeles Lakers versus Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Lakers have a 48.5% chance to win, and the Timberwolves have a 51.5% chance to win. Minnesota leads 2-1 the series, and they're the home team. And we know the Lakers, you know, they won they won one of the games in LA, then they lost one of the games in LA, and they lost another game in LA, and they lost the first game in Minnesota. And so, this is at Minnesota, the Lakers, with this being Reg's first year as a coach and basically only being there because LeBron wanted him there. Yeah. And they have Luka Doncic, who's a good player, but of course he hasn't been the most consistent in the playoffs in his career. LeBron James, at this stage of his career, he hasn't been the most consistent. When he's healthy, he's pretty consistently good in the playoffs. Outside the fact that he flops and likes to whine a lot. I'm like, quit being a little pussy about that. Just take the hit like a man. I freaking hate flopping. Real men don't flop. And that applies to all them Ole Miss football players too. Anyway, for this game, it's at Minnesota. So, like the Lakers, I think to win the series, they need home field advantage to have a chance. Like, just because the way LeBron likes to be a GM. Now, I don't think he was involved too much with the Luka trade. That was like the one time the Lakers front office actually decided to grow some balls and do something. But with a lot of players that LeBron has assembled, they don't truly make it far in the playoffs. Yeah. So I think with it being at Minnesota, I think the Timberwolves beat the Lakers tomorrow to go up 3-1 in the series. All right. Boston Celtics versus Orlando Magic. So Boston's up 2-1 in the series, and they have a 64% chance to win, and the Magic has a 36% chance to win. So so Orlando was able to, they were able to get a win in one of the games, despite Celtics being heavily favored. As the Celtics should be, they should be heavily favored. And I mean the Celtics, they won the first two games in Boston, then the Magic got a game in Orlando. And so this game is in Orlando. And who knows? Maybe the Magic can be able to, well, pull off some magic or something to get another win. I don't know. I wouldn't be banking on that. Like I wouldn't. I I- I'd say, despite being at Orlando, I think the Boston Celtics win the game tomorrow. All right. Milwaukee Bucks versus Indiana Pacers. Yeah, another really close series. You know, fourth seed versus fifth seed. And, Indiana's up 2-1, and they have a 44.8% chance to win, and the Bucks have 55.2% chance to win. This is at Milwaukee, and so yeah, in these games, like Pacers won the two games at Indiana, and the Bucks won the first game in Milwaukee. So basically, home teams won the first three games, and a lot of people are expecting that trend to continue, tomorrow. And I would say I agree with that. I think with how close this series is, I think this could be this is another series that could go to seven. Like it could be like could be like one of the biggest series, like the most interesting series in this round, if not the most interesting. So I think the Bucks win tomorrow to even the series and you know take it to game five tomorrow. Well, game five, whenever game five is, yeah, it's it's gonna be a good game, I think. Yeah, I think the Bucks will win. College baseball. So first game, Arkansas versus Florida, game three. So this series is tied. Florida won game one, Arkansas won game two. This is at Florida, one of the hardest stadiums to play in. Arkansas is number five in the country. Florida is unranked, but they have a very good record for an unranked team. Yeah, this could be a good game, but I think Arkansas beats Florida tomorrow to win the series. All right, Georgia Tech versus Miami. So Tech has, and for 2 weeks in a row, has been upset by an unranked ACC team. Last week it was by Miami, who swept them at Miami. this week they lost games 1 and 2 against Virginia Tech at home. And frick, I mean, Tech is 24 in the nation. I mean, Virginia is like generally a good team, so it's not like Tech lost to like completely terrible team. I mean, man, I mean, that's bad for him. Maybe that's like they're probably going to drop out of the top 25 now. I mean, frick, the Bugs have been squashed. But yeah, I mean, now with this being at Tech, I don't think they're going to get swept by Virginia. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll salvage a win and to beat Virginia tomorrow and basically lose the series 1 and 2 instead of 0 and 3. All right. Vanderbilt Commodores versus the Ole Miss Rebels. So Ole Miss won both games 1 and 2, so they've clinched the series. This is at Oxford, and one of the hardest stadiums to play in. But Vanderbilt's not a team that gets swept a lot. You know, they're at this point in time, they are ranked higher than Ole Miss. Now, could that change after this weekend? Mm, Uh, hmm. I mean, Vanderbilt currently is at 9. Ole Miss is 23. I, I mean, it's possible they could switch. They could like Ole Miss could rise in the rankings. I mean, Vanderbilt's probably gonna fall. So it's possible Ole Miss could be higher than Vanderbilt after this weekend. Like it would require Vanderbilt to drop a lot, and for Ole Miss to rise a lot. But it's possible, and probably should because Ole Miss currently has more wins than Vanderbilt. So, this is at Oxford, so a tough place to play them, but I don't think Vanderbilt's getting swept. I think they salvage a win tomorrow and basically lose the series 1 and 2 instead of 0 and 3. All right, Florida State versus Louisville, game 3. So this series is is tied. Florida State won game 1, Louisville won game 2. And this is at Louisville. And with the rankings, Florida State is at 4, Louisville is at 19. So it could be very interesting. Florida State having a higher ranking, but Louisville being the home team, this could be an interesting series. So Louisville does have a chance to win, but I'm not gonna bet against Florida State in this case. I mean, I'm not a betting man. I'm not. I don't gamble. But I'm not gonna bet against Florida State I'm not gonna pick against Florida State in this game. I think the Seminoles beat the Cardinals tomorrow. All right. Tennessee Volunteers versus LSU Tigers. So LSU won game 1, and at the time of recording this, Tennessee is up 2-0 over LSU, top of the 4th. This is at Baton Rouge, like arguably the hardest stadium to play in the nation for college baseball. Like it's arguably the hardest. So if Tennessee holds on to win, this series will be tied 1-1. And now if LSU comes back to win, they'll clinch the series. So yeah, this is a tough one to pick while the game's still going on, but right now I'm going to assume that Tennessee hangs on to win today and will tie up the series. And with this being Baton Rouge, I think LSU wins tomorrow and wins the series. Yeah. All right. Mississippi State Bulldogs versus Auburn Tigers. So Auburn won game one, and at the time recording this, Mississippi State is up 10-3 over Auburn, top of the seventh. This is at Auburn. Auburn's ranked number 11. Mississippi State's unranked. And, State could pull off an upset tomorrow. They could. But with it, and if it was at Dewey Noble Field, I would heavily consider picking it. Because Dewey Noble Field is called the Carnegie Hall of College Baseball for a reason. But I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to pick Auburn to win the game tomorrow and win the series. All right. Oregon State Beavers versus Oregon Ducks. So, this series, yeah. So game two has, well, seems to either, I don't know if it's just not started yet, if there's a delay or something. I don't know. But it seems there's not anything given as far as if there's anything going on. But Oregon won game one at, so, and as far as, yeah, okay. So, yeah, so here, yeah, so I found like the game, so, yeah, so it looks like Oregon is ahead right now. At the time of recording this, they are up, they're up up 11-1. So if Oregon hangs on to win, they clinch the series. Now, if Oregon State somehow makes a comeback, then which would be an impressive comeback, then basically tomorrow would determine the winner. Now, I'm not picking that to happen. I think Oregon will hang on to win. So, but I don't think either team is getting swept. So I think with if assuming Oregon hangs on to win today, I think that Oregon State beats Oregon tomorrow to salvage a win. Yeah. All right. Next game, Texas versus Texas A&M. One of the bigger ranked versus unranked matchups. In-state rivalry. Last year's A&M head coach now being the Texas coach. This is at Texas. Texas number one in the nation. And then Texas, they won game one and they won game two, so they've clinched the series. So tomorrow we could play for a sweep, or A&M could try to salvage a win. So yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some bad blood with over. Yeah, there's gonna be some bad feelings about this from A&M. And this is at Texas. Texas being a big baseball school. Yeah, I think they pull off the sweep tomorrow over the Aggies. All right, UCLA versus Penn State. So UCLA won game one and they won game two. So they clinched the series. Tomorrow they could play for a sweep at UCLA. Penn State will try to salvage a win. UCLA being ranked 15 in the nation at the time recording this. Yeah, I mean Penn State has a good record for an unranked team, but UCLA is a big baseball school. Like old Pac-12 teams. They were big base. Those are big baseball schools. UCLA having won a national championship before, their last one being 2013, I believe. Yeah, I believe it was 2013 because, yeah. Yeah, and so I think UCLA pulls off the sweep tomorrow over the Nittany Lions. Yeah. And that's it for picks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my picks. Do you agree with them? Do you not? If you have different picks, you can put them in the comments. But other than that, please like, subscribe, and all that. Thank you for listening and look forward to the next video.